brief introduction on Swami Swaroopananda. In this era filled with skepticism and confusion about spiritual matters, Swami Swaroopananda is a rare voice who blends authenticity with accessibility, theory with self-practice, and logic with heart. And I'm sure you're going to feel that tonight. Born and brought up in Mumbai, India, Swamiji had always been convinced that beyond life's superficial everyday joys and sorrows, there was something more enduring and satisfying. As a child, he had heard from his grandmother many stories based on the great Indian epics and the history of all our saints. These stories suddenly came to life, acquiring a new meaning and depth when, as an adolescent, he met the master of Vedanta, Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda himself. His heart completely moved and inspired. In 1984, Swami Swaroopananda gave up his family's thriving business in Hong Kong to undergo intensive monastic training under Swami Chinmayananda and Swami Tejovinanda at Sandipani Sadhanalaya in Mumbai. He was initiated into the monastic order in 1992. Since then, Swamiji has touched hundreds of thousands of lives across the world, and his tremendous work in bringing out the essential wisdom and underlying unity of all religions has garnered him a place among the vanguards of self-development philosophy. Swamiji is equally adept at conducting holistic management seminars for senior corporate executives. And among the well-known organizations that he's been invited to speak have been the Ford Motor Company, London Business School, and our very own Harvard University, to name just a few. In fact, a proprietary self-development course that he conceived and is actively conducting, called Make It Happen, has now been adapted and integrated into the human resources training programs of various corporate organizations in India and all over the world. Swamiji has also authored several commentaries on important spiritual classics, such as Mahamrityunjaya Mantra, Ik Onkar, and Sankat Mochan, along with numerous books on contemporary lifestyle subjects such as simplicity and meditation, storm to perform, life management techniques, and journey into health, just to name a few, all of which are available in paperback, ebooks, audio, and video formats. And by the way, all of them are on sale right here outside the auditorium. When you registered, I'm sure you saw the bookstall there. Please make sure you pick up a copy of all of these books today. I'd like to see all of the books taken by all of you. I'm sure you're going to enjoy them. Swamiji formerly served as the regional head of Chinmaya Mission in the Far East, Australia, United Kingdom, Middle East, and Africa. And he was the director in charge of Chinmaya International Residential School in Coimbatore, India, which is now ranked as the #1 academic institution in the country. It's an amazing achievement. Swamiji is also the chancellor of the newly established Chinmaya University. And at the end of today's lecture, he will be speaking a few words about the new Chinmaya University, which has just been established, and we will show you a video. So please do stay on. At the end of the talk, you'll get some more insight into this wonderful new institution, which has just been inaugurated in India. Such has been the Guru's grace on Swamiji that Pujya Guruji, Swami Tejovinanda, bestowed upon him the privilege of serving as the global head of the Chinmaya Mission since January 2017. So blending Vedantic wisdom with practical insights, Pujya Swamiji elucidates even the subtlest of concepts with his simplicity and humor. Let us all learn the art of finding joy and contentment in all of life's moments. And without further ado, may I invite Swamiji to please take his seat.
So entire life very often goes pursuing wealth, spoiling our health, and for health, spending our wealth. And the entire life is wasted. And finally, the only way to get over the stress of both is plug off. You saw what happened, right? It's called 4D discourse. So you have to unplug the person finally. When all the wealth is over, you unplug the person. One lesson we have to learn in life, that wealth is no doubt important. Very often we hear people condemning wealth. Our great rishis of India did not condemn wealth. In fact, as Lakshmi, she is married to none other than Lord Narayana himself. Because for any project to be created and specially sustained, you require wealth. Yet we have to understand the difference between being wealthy and being rich. Some of the richest people in the world today, many a times they have lost their wealth, but never a time were they poor. Richness and poverty is a mental attitude. It has got nothing to do with how much wealth we have or how much wealth we don't have. Our great thinkers of the past gave us the complete philosophy of wealth management. First and foremost is that what is our attitude towards wealth? Most people, whenever they see a very rich person, what is the expression we use? Dirty rich. Filthy rich. Yeah? Everybody wants wealth, is it not? Anybody here who doesn't want wealth? But we generally call them as filthy rich. Because of that, we have created in our mind a psychological limitation that if you want to be rich, you have to become filthy. And if you don't become filthy, you will not be rich. And therefore, we do find people in this world who are filthy rich because their belief is you can be rich only when you are filthy. And those of us who don't want ever to be filthy, you might think, can never be rich. This mental attitude is one of the greatest blockage that we have in our mind. Many a times when I have been conducting our Make It Happen course, and sometimes CEOs of various companies who obviously are being paid heavily, but they don't feel rich. And therefore people get into the mode of greed. And of course we are in the city which says greed is good. Till 2008. Yeah. Our rishis never condemned wealth. In fact, they have always suggested that we must be rich. And richness does not depend on how much wealth we have, but really speaking, how much we feel grateful for what we have and how do we manage our wealth that we have enough. Kabir Das Ji has said in one of his prayers to the Lord that give me that much wealth that my family does not remain hungry and any guest who comes to my house never goes hungry. Such people are the people who are always rich, never poor. Yet one can have billions and yet they can feel poor and therefore constantly the need of greed. This attitude towards wealth must be changed. Therefore, our rishis never condemned wealth. Shankaracharya in Bhaj Govindam has said very beautifully, in one verse, given us what the Upanishads point out, like Ishavasya Upanishad, our attitude towards wealth and how we should manage wealth. So in this short talk, I'm trying to cover some very important take-home attitudes, and the change of attitude can suddenly, instantly, now make us richer than anyone else in the world. Because what truly is richness? Shankaracharya in Bhajagovindam says, Mood Jahihi Dhanagam Krishna. First thing he points out is that do not become greedy for wealth. No one says don't acquire wealth. No one says wealth is bad. It's how we earn it and on what we spend it can make a person good or bad. As such, wealth itself is neither good nor bad. It is how we acquire, how we spend. And it is this greed, this trishna for wealth. In fact, the previous president's statement just recently has come over the newspapers. No? How much does a man really, or a family, really need in their life? Yet whole life goes struggling to get more and more and more of wealth. And in the process, stress, anxiety, jealousy, hatred, competition, wars are fought for this wealth, invasions for this wealth. And finally, how much land do we really need? Enough only for this body to sleep upon. A person who is greedy, as much as wealth he may have, will never feel rich. And thus, until and unless one person feels rich, the joy of having wealth is never felt. Therefore, the Rishi says that mood jahihi dhanagama trishna. What they condemn is the greed for wealth, not the motivation even to acquire wealth. Because wealth has got its own use. But why is it that we are so obsessed with wealth? And those who are obsessed with wealth don't feel rich, and therefore do not know how to make good use of their wealth and to invest their wealth also. Let me give you one example about how we make wealth our goal, not even a happy family life. They say it, but in our psyche, wealth is the goal. Therefore, you ask anyone to set goals these days, only now it is being said that you need happiness. Now happiness audit takes place of companies because every other audit has been saturated with accountants. But otherwise, if you tell somebody goals, this much acquisitions, this much takeovers, this much wealth has to be acquired, and when you tell them also to have higher goals, it's only a linear goal that we made millions, now we have to make billions. But are we any richer in a place where depression is the highest, suicide rates are highest, drug addiction are becoming legal? Tell me. Can we say that that society is rich? And a person who is greedy, in a question-answer session, none other than Adi Shankaracharya was asked, Ko vasti daridraha? Who is a poor man? And he says, Vishal Krishna. One who has a lot of greed is always poor. Therefore, richness and poverty is a mental attitude. Poverty is not something that is glorified in our scriptures, please understand. But being without wealth, you can be the richest of the richest. Therefore, Kabir Das ji says, Man lago mero yaro fakiri. Why I'm quoting these is not to just bring some religion or spirituality into it. These are life sciences that the great thinkers have thought over and given us. And I don't want to say this is my royalty course. Amazing, amazing treasures we find in the wisdom of the people who have lived through life and know the difference between richness and poverty. Thus, it is not that wealth is not important, but where do we place wealth? It was very interesting. When I was just turned a teenager, one of my cousins returned from his job abroad. It was customary that people used to go abroad to get training and then come back to India. Even now we do that, but we remain. So he had returned back from abroad, and we had just turned a teenager, older cousin. We admired, and he came with new clothes, new fashions. And those days where travels were not that common, televisions were also not there. Anybody from abroad, oh, I know, they would take out their shirt. Do you know how much this costs? How much that costs? And tell you in dollars and multiply it in rupees. And rupees was strong, not like it was now. But still, the amounts look quite high. Till finally he was showing us all his new clothes, new fashions, everything. And young teenagers, we were fascinated. Till finally he took out his shoe and said, how much does it cost? So looked at the shoe, very ordinary. Bata shoes normally costed those days about 50 rupees. Now since it's from abroad and he shows everything is fancy, so we said, this shoe must be 150 rupees. That's a lot of money at that time. He said, these are Bali shoes. Nike and Reebok were not in fashion at that time. These are Bali shoes. And who would wear shoes of thousands of rupees? It was absolutely crazy, something that gets dirty and you have to only protect your feet from dirt. You were said like that. In our homes used to be maids who were like nannies, of course, and brought us up from childhood. So the nanny was also hearing this conversation. Next day he came out from the bathroom, of course wearing his gown, and then hair drying his hair, something new. And then using all these things, and these are shampoos, these are conditioner. All you did was those days apply Lifebuoy on you and that's it. Shining black hair you had. But all these things he's showing, and we were watching him. Then he wear his bell bottoms, flare pants, all those things, and finally he was looking for his shoes. His shoes were not found. He started scolding us that we must have played some mischief and hid his Bali shoes. We said, we don't know where your shoe is, and who will touch your Bali shoes? 1,000 rupee shoes, who wants to touch? And he was searching, he looked for everywhere. We were also looking everywhere, we couldn't find it. Finally he asked the maid that, have you seen where my shoe is? And she's like a nanny. Why do you want the shoe? Why do you want the shoe? So he said, you know where the shoe is. He said, why do you want the shoe? He said, because I want to wear it and go down. On those dirty streets of Bombay? You're going to wear those shoes, expensive shoes? Now he wants to go out, show off to his friends. And he says, give me my shoes. And the keys of the cupboards used to be in their hands only. They're like grandmothers of the house. So she takes out her key, opens the cupboard, and what do we see on the top mind? The right values which are valuable in your life. which give value to your life, not the wealth that gives you value. And when valuables are more than values in our life, we become poor, not rich. Thus people lose their family, lose love, lose siblings. So Kuru sad buddhim manasi vitrishta. Then what is the attitude towards wealth which will always be rich? Says, yallabase nij karmo patam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Whatever wealth you can earn with your sincere efforts. Entertain your life, enjoy your life with the wealth that you here earn. If we live up to the Jones, they will always be under tension. Their mortgages are so high. Mortgage also we have to have, but to what level? If we live our life, otherwise most people are working so many hours, the huge homes that they build, they have no time to enjoy. They say they earn wealth for the family, but the family grows up and leaves, and still they are earning for the family. In fact, whatever wealth you have, if you can live your life with that wealth, and it's not how much wealth we earn, but how much wealth we use, how we use, and how much balance is remaining, that tells us how wealthy we are, is it not? Most people think that if their salary goes high, they are wealthier. No. They are in fact sometimes poorer because the expenses also go very high. Again, a simple thing between an asset and a liability. Very often people, when they earn well, the first thing they want to use is make a humongous house which is like a museum. Of course you should have a comfortable, beautiful house. But a house is an expenditure. It does not. You can sit on a house saying that it has, it is appreciated to about 10 million. But till you sell, and when you sell, money is also depreciated that much. Only we think that we bought it for 1 million and we sold it for 10 million. No? These are simple mathematics, and that's not what I'm really getting into it. But our real wealth that builds wealth is that which we invest. Even in the corporate world, what we invest. Otherwise, we are constantly living in anxiety, tension, stress, and naturally with that comes all the various emotions of frustration, anger, low self-esteem, even high self-esteem and ego. All these things which disturb our mind. And the spiritual science points out that our physical disease rises out of our mental dis-ease. Today also, you may go and spend millions with the doctors. But sometimes the solution is very simple. And the simple solution is reduce your stress. Change your habits. Many diseases have been cured when we are no longer under stress, anxiety, which is born out of greed for wealth, not by being rich. Because really we cannot even enjoy our wealth. Thus, we don't even have time to sleep, we don't have time to rest. And then we need more wealth to buy Fitbit. To tell us to sleep more, but to pay for it, you spend more. Or you earn more. This is a vicious cycle that people fall into, not realizing that most of our life habits are geared by our stress rather than living a lifestyle where stress is in the minimum and we can truly enjoy even the simple things of life. A walk in the garden where we have time for it. We're too busy jogging, trying to reduce our weight because we overate. Is it not? So whole life goes in trying to balance the imbalance that we create every day. Let me tell you a little bit about health also. And these simple tips, it's not that we definitely know what we eat goes to make our body, and the subtle part to go and make our mind. So what we eat, how much we eat, there are plenty of diet courses going on and new fads come up. All salad diet. Don't go for it. Become alkaline. If acid is being bad, alkaline is being worse. The body has to be in balance. And for that, the mind also has to be in balance. There is no particular diet which is good for everybody because our body types are different. In Ayurveda, it's pointed out, which one of the Upavedas, that the bodies we have are also of the three types according to the three moods of the mind. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. And therefore, according to it, Kapha, Pitta and Vata. I'm not going to go into details of it, but just to know that what sources of knowledge are available even for our longevity and good, healthy life. But simple tip has been given in our books of yoga is eat only half your stomach with solid food. Quarter leave it for liquids and quarter for the prana, the air, to circulate and churn the food and digest the food. Also when to eat. Many of our problems also when we are traveling, our biological physical clock is very different from the outside clock. Therefore, simple is eat when you are hungry. But these days we can't even say that because we keep eating salt and sugar so much that we are hungry all the time. So we are binging all the time. And yesterday when I was at the airport waiting for 10 hours for the flight to take off, I was looking around and everybody was on their iPads or iPhones and all the children were sitting like that. And I can tell you Darwin's theory of how a giraffe evolved from a horse. We can already see in our children. Spondylitis is going to be very natural. Yeah? In fact, if you got a straight neck like you have, you would be very awkward. And there it was written free Wi-Fi so that you can binge on your phone. So now there are different types of food. Not only what you binge through your mouth, but what we binge through our eyes, what we binge through our ears, what we binge through our nose, what we binge through our skin. These 5 sense organs are constantly taking in food. Today we are talking about being mindful. As I said, there is no perfect diet for everyone. And please, Indians, don't go on all this quinoa and kale diet. Because just as you left paneer and went on soya, or sab so gaye, now everything is non-soya, non-this, non-that. Earlier it was said canola oil only, then olive oil only. Now coconut oil is in. What were we doing in Kerala so many years? Whatever is your ethnic diet, and diet according to climate, food and fruits according to season. Unfortunately, we are getting food from everywhere, etc. That is also not happening. But the body has a 4-day cycle. At least those who are making their own food at home, unlike us, who are traveling all the time. There's a 4 cycle in a year when foods and fruits come, including grains. And if you truly want to be organic, then keep the cycle of 4 days. Like if you eat a particular vegetable or type of species of vegetable or a family of vegetables, like the nightshade vegetables that you eat, which is potato, tomato, capsicums, chilies, brinjal. These are all nightshade, which is quite popularly known by people, and many people tell you to avoid it. If you have it 1 day and then take a gap of 3 days. Earlier you used to have a gap of 9 months before you ate those fruits. Your body rebuilds within itself the enzymes that are required to digest all those probiotics that are required to digest them. This is simple, this idea. And yet each body is different. And if we are just mindful of what we eat. Therefore it used to be customary that before you start eating, you pray. These days you pray that the right food comes to you. Because those days there were certain fixed fruits that would come. So you used to pray, thank you God. But the whole idea is to bring the mind to a state of quietude, a state of mindfulness. And then when you look at the food, not go by the taste of the food, which also has got its implications. Just like when you were children, you could not eat bitter gourd, karela, or you could eat even bangan, brinjal, or you could even eat ghee, dudhi. But when you start liking them, you know you're old. And it's the right diet for you. Because age also has its own diet and quantity. But when we look at the food with reverence, we know what to eat and even how much to eat. If we are not on the go, on the phone, driving while eating, we definitely eat quickly. The sugar does not get digested in our mouth. It goes into the body, and by the time it reaches the brain through the blood, you have already overeaten. This is a simple thing about diet, that be mindful of what you are eating. And why are we earning the money when we have no time to eat? The only purpose why human beings have to work, really speaking, is to eat. And if that only you cannot do, then what is the point of anything? No? Take that half an hour out for eating properly. Sitting and eating, not on the run. But let me tell you also that in the Gita this is given about the food. Of course, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic people, how they eat the food. But Shri Krishna in the 4th chapter has pointed out that one of the methods of mastering the mind is regulating your diet. For us to easily understand, today we hear about this acid and alkaline. Of course, our body is slightly alkaline. The moment you go acid, certain diseases, symptoms arise. And acidity does not have to be whether just feeling acidity in the stomach or heartburns. You will start, when there is anxiety in the mind, there's a natural tendency to take stimulants which will make you acidic, hyper, and thus hyperacidity comes up, hyperthyroid comes up, and such diseases go on. But they are not only physical, but even psychological. Therefore, you have hypertension, you will have along with that stress, anxiety, and as you go down the border, anger, frustrations are going to be on the increase. And end of the spectrum is diseases like diabetes, cancer, as well as diseases of the mind, till even the mind can become criminal in extreme cases. And there's enough clinical evidence about this even in modern society. And the alkaline side is where digestion will start being poor, all these hay fever, allergies will start. You see people blinking their eyes most of the time, they go like this. These are the first symptoms of you getting alkaline. And again down the spectrum is arthritis and mental depression, etc. These are the type of diseases that arise not only physically and mentally, and both are related to each other. Your mental health is as important for your physical health as your physical health is important for your mental health. I had had many opportunities to address people on health, and I'm not going to get into making a health chart for you, that's not. But the attitude in curing yourself. Whether that disease is pointed out as genetic by the doctors, today they say even genes can be switched on and switched off. Whether they are stress oriented, diet oriented, or very often we don't know why it happens. I was told that you'll never be able to walk again. You have to have a hip joint replacement because it's already fused and this and that, and it was excruciating pain. But one thing I'd learned from my guru, that if I have to live and I have to work, I have to be healthy. Doctors said whatever they know, I have got no objection to that. But when I thought about very alternate therapy, they said, oh, there is no cure for it. And in that science, there is no cure for it. But I made up my mind, and it is mind over matter. It's not that I didn't have help from Ayurveda and various, what they call today as alternative, which was once mainstream. Having cured myself, to whom they said that you will never be able to move again, was an excruciating pain. Let me tell you, I've climbed Mount Kenya. Some of the people sitting here have seen me in that condition when I used to go to the house, climbing the hill, dragging my leg, right? They've seen me in that condition where I would not be able to even walk. And the doctor said, there is no cure for it. But I made up my mind that if I have to do this work, and my Guru lovingly said, don't even take tension about that. Do what you can do. But knowing that in his presence, and of course he was a master of all kinds, in his mere presence I would get that willpower that in spite of the pain move on. And his presence, I would be able to function. I knew I can. And first and foremost is, do not deny the disease. It is said even in Tulsi Ramayana that do not consider a spark of fire or even a symptom of a disease or an enemy to be small. When the symptoms first arise, you must immediately treat it, physical or even emotional. I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go to medical therapies right away, but it should be treated right away. And particularly what is becoming common today is depression. I'm not going to ask in this audience, but when I have seminars, I ask how many people are on antidepressant, and especially when I'm speaking to CEOs and managing directors of some of the largest companies in the world. It's almost like a fad to take an antidepressant. Such must be the anxiety level. And these are successful people, as you would say in the worldly sense. Introduce a vocabulary and you have a disease. Do not keep on repeating, oh, little sadness, or don't depress me. Don't even use these words. Let not children hear these words also. Why are you looking depressed? Don't say that. There is something called as sorrow. Depression is a state of hopelessness. And it is not, in fact, when we were growing up, we never saw anybody depressed. And don't say that we didn't know what today depression is. We didn't even know what it was because there was no vocabulary. You had sadness, you had coped with it. You had failure, you coped with it. You didn't blame the world and sit down and say the world is miserable. Whenever you start feeling something like this, get out in the open. Get into the company of people. Be in the company of loved ones. Receive their love. Right? If not, write love letters to yourself and tell how great and wonderful you are. But never get into that state where afterwards no one can get you out until unless you will yourself to get out of depression. And with that follows optimum numbers of diseases that come from that one mental, including chronic fatigue syndrome, where every disease in the town will hit you. I have seen so many such cases. I was so sad that I even took up this topic. Being a spiritual person, you might wonder why I've taken up this topic. Because if you don't have physical health, how will you have mental health? And without mental health, where is spirituality? Please tell me. All these gimmicks about mindfulness and meditation, etc., is not possible until you have got mental health. Like I was once on flight and somebody told me, normally on flight nobody talks. You wish the other person never came. He was a friendly person from Scotland. In fact, he got up, even helped me put my luggage up, gave me the seat to sit. And normally that's the only place I have some quietude. But this guy was so chatty, he was asking about me and he had no idea about who I am. He says, what's your profession? See, two people cannot tell their profession. It's the profession where you work 20 hours a day without any income, personal income. One is a housewife, mother, and the other is a monk. And yet you do so much work. So I said, profession. I said, no, what do I tell him? It was very awkward. So I said, I'm a teacher. Oh, where do you teach? In college or in school? So I said, I teach in open universities. What's Open University? I said, public forums. Oh, what do you teach? So I said, now what will I tell him? If I tell him I teach Vedanta, he will not even be able to pronounce because they are Vedanta. So Vedanta, what is that? So I was trying kind of, easing the situation so it would be easy for him to understand. And I told him that, I teach meditation. And that time mindfulness and all was not into. So he looks at me. He says, becomes quiet for some time by the need for meditation. Then he tells me that, I hear this meditation is very good to remove stress, because today in the corporate world we are so stressed out. So can you, now in the flight he's asking me, can you teach me that meditation by which I can reduce my stress? So I said, you want to learn meditation? Why do you want to learn meditation? He said, I want to reduce my stress. I had to tell him, because, being taught by such a great Guru Parampara, I can't bluff. I said, you want to meditate to remove your stress. You have to be free from stress to meditate. It's a very important lesson, let me tell you that. That's why Krishna taught Arjuna many means of mastering the mind, then taught him meditation. So what I'm trying to tell you is how the mind's stress brings about this body illnesses. And it is not that when you try to relax your body, quieten your body, it just steps to meditation. It's not going to be helpful. I will also suggest that you should do it. Pranayamas also should do it. But some of the causes will still not be removed, or some of the disease will still not be removed, because the cause is in your thought. And when I cured myself, I was able to walk and run and climb mountains. I applied that same science. First of all, do not deny your disease. Many a time people are so afraid of the disease that they die of the fear of the disease than the disease itself. And I had to also face that. When somebody at random diagnosed and said something ridiculous, which I was afraid that anybody near me would hear, they would die hearing about it. I was laughing about it. And no doctor could tell me after that person just said that actually there is a concrete diagnosis for knowing also whether you have. People were ready to give me the medicine for that disease, which I didn't even know that I had, or I did not have, and luckily I did not have it. It's a crazy world out there. And if you have to be rich, we have to be healthy. And if we have to enjoy our richness or even produce wealth, we have to be healthy. And when we are rich, one of the aspects of richness is a good, healthy life. Then only we can enjoy. Our Rishi spoke about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We didn't only talk about freedom and liberation, but all these aspects are there. So how do we have our health? I will point out a simple but very, very effective means. Just as we change our attitude towards wealthiness and richness, change your mental attitude towards health and looking good. Just because you are slim, you are not healthy. And just because you are a little overweight according to modern skinny standards, I remember there is one lady, ever since I have known her, she has been, well, let's put it bluntly, fat. Ever since I've known her. People might call it obesity, but she's been fat. I won't say she's obese, she's fat. And she flaunts herself very well, uninhibited, you know. And she was very healthy as a fat woman. Suddenly she had lost so much weight, and I remember I landed at the airport, and it was not like, auntie would like more of you to love, to hug you. No, she was older than me. I just looked at her and I said, why have you lost? And I don't talk about, oh, you're looking fat or you're looking thin. I'm not here for the body, I'm here for the spirit. I looked at her and I suddenly said, why have you lost so much weight? You're looking sick. And she's very proud. I'm fitting into my daughter's clothes, Swamiji. Anyway, just to please her, I said, you know what? We like our aunts and mummies to be, cuddly. I never hugged her, but to be cuddly. Why do you have to be so skinny and bony? And my immediate response to her, so Swamiji, I never knew that you accepted me for what I was. I said, I always accepted you for what you were. So what if you were fat? But you were looking good as fat and you were looking healthy. And believe it or not, the amount of illnesses that she had, doctors could not diagnose. And all I had, when she called me up, Swamiji bless me, doctors can't find out some nerve problems, some weird problems that you've never heard of, some rare diseases. I just told her, please, whatever it is at this moment cannot be worked on. Please eat properly. I'm not saying become fat, eat properly. And she put on her weight. She'd been healthy for years. See, please understand, becoming thin is not necessarily healthy. It's not about the looks. It's how you feel in that body. Not how do you look in that body. Otherwise, how many people become anorexic? Are they healthy just because they are thin? Don't create these complexes, especially in children. Yeah, they can have unhealthy fat if they are not of the chubby type. They may have unhealthy fat which need to be worked upon. But again, that's not what I would say, is that how a healthy mind has a healthy body, and a healthy body has a healthy mind. And a healthy body and healthy mind can pursue not only great goals of life, but also the highest spiritual gain. First and foremost, I'll give you one exercise to do right now. How many of you can recognize that something, some mental agitation or something, you use very strong physical words? Like, okay, I don't use this word, but how often people use this? How many of you use the word, oh shit? Put your hand up, put your hand up. When you do that, put your hand up. And up. But keep it up. I know if you say that word, you will not be able to hold your hand up too much. Right? Keep it up, okay? Now, how many of you were putting their hands up, and leave your hands up if you still, answer this question in the yes, have got some bowel problems? Depends how intensively and how often you use these words. Therefore, many young people may have put their hand down, but be prepared. Okay? Either you'll have some constipation or you'll be sitting for long hours in the bathroom, which is neither healthy for hemorrhoids, etc. So, just let me warn you that watch out for such diseases. I remember I used to have a person whom I knew very well, and one day I'm talking on the phone with that person, and that person says, "Okay, now don't chew my brains." This is long before, of course. And that's the time, I was learning all these things, I was discussing with them also, and I told this person, I've been hearing you very often using this word, and I have told you that, and we had discussed this, and we had learned also that very often the statements that you make very often, if it becomes a strong mental statement, a mental assertion, and then becomes your mental attitude. Positively, it's the principle of regularly thinking of noble ideas, mantras, Lord's name. But when it gets ingrained in your mind, there are two atmospheres, remember. One is the physical atmosphere, and one is the atmosphere of our mind. That's why in our ancient books, even though there are 5 seasons, there's a 6th season pointed out. Very often people get confused. What is the 6th season? It's the season of your mind. Now, when you feel a cold draft, like some of you might be feeling right now in this hall, what do you do with your body? And most of you, I can see that, are tightening yourself. Luckily, I'm in the spotlight, I got a little warmth. What will you start doing? Tightening yourself. This we do over regular seasons and etc. We get the cloth. Now you're not prepared for it in this season, and you do like this. Now suppose in your mind, the mind constantly says that, I'm going to be cold towards these people, or these people are cold towards me. The mind relates cold with external coolness. Your physical stimuli reaches the mind and your intellect makes a judgment, and the mind follows and expresses itself at the physical level. Coldness is relative, because for them who experience 36, 40 degrees, 27 is cold. And they tell me, "Swamiji, can you have the class a little later?" I say, "But people have to go to work. Swamiji, have sympathy on us old people. 27 degrees, and they're sitting like this." It's a mental attitude. Of course, not only what your body can bear, just to give you an idea. Now, if your mind is constantly under stress, after some time you imagine you become so weak that everything is causes stress. And therefore we often say, "Don't give me stress." Or is that even the word depression? What we repeat in our mind finally becomes the belief of the mind. When I conduct the Make It Happen course, even for CEOs who are already so successful, do you know, many people reach a plateau and after that they're not able to go to the next step. And what stops them is very often a thought. Change the thought, and really speaking, our Bhagavad Gita and all these textbooks, even as you read them, are changing your mental attitude. Therefore, don't understand that these discourses are some lecture series, take down notes. We take back, take home points. Even while you are here itself, if that shift, they say shift in consciousness, but really shift of the mind takes place, instantly you will find that the change happens. She kept on saying that she had, don't chew her brains, for smallest things. I told her, I said, you know very well that this is going to cause you some, and my concern was if she continued for such a long time, she would get a brain tumor, and you didn't need cell phones for that. And I just told her, I didn't want to put in her mind brain tumor. I just said, you can get some brain problems. And she says, you're right. And again, very fancy these days. We don't use words like headache. It's straight away a migraine. Sounds very romantic, of course. Migraine. Don't call it a migraine. There is something called as migraine. But every headache is basically, most of it is acidity and gas in your stomach. I'm telling you, I go through it very often myself. It's only wrong time of eating, flights, this. It is only that kind of headache. You don't even need a pill. All you do is go for a walk, let it settle down, and it will go away. But people are putting in pills for side effects later on. Your digestion will go worse, which is the cause of the headache. See, it's a vicious cycle we go through, this mind and body connection. And she said that she had severe migraines. Over the period of time, I watched. And if you get my book, which I've given a talk to the cancer patient, I'm not saying that please diagnose cancer before and take whatever treatment is required. But it's a very peculiar disease. It's part of your body. Right? There are external sources and all that. This is not to be denied. We're living in polluted society. We are eating polluted things. We think we are eating healthy. There can be 101 causes of cancer. But when I spoke to some people who are doing natural therapy in cancer, whatever research personally I had done about people and had helped people even in the last stages of cancer to at least not be in pain or go with some, I was looking out for a person who had been cured, spontaneously gone into remission, so that we could get into knowing, because there's a lot of going on, this natural therapy, that therapy, and I don't doubt any of them, but we want evidence. Finally, I heard of this person who was in the last stages of severe leukemia. Leukemia also goes into remission, some form of leukemias. But all the doctors had given up. Literally, he was going around with a bottle of blood, transfusion bottle. I had spoken about this in the Journey into Health, and please read it and spread it as much as you can. It has helped many, many people by just reading it. I'm not just publicizing a book. I'm not interested in that. Right? If it can help people, yes, it's wonderful. And many people have come up to me and told me how it has helped them. At least to reduce the impact of the disease, because it all depends on our mind. I had cured myself, not of cancer, but other severe disease. Even my regular hay fever that I had from childhood, all these diseases I could remove. So I began to see in people certain patterns. Even if it was genetic, it can be cured if you have a certain mental attitude. You'll find the cure also. And some people that I met, it was an immediate thought that caused a disease and could be removed with an immediate thought also. Here was a patient who had cancer. Last stages of cancer, was going around, even went to India, and they go to Peru and all want to go for this healing. And why not? When somebody is ill, some hope is required. Went to India thinking that all these big names that do miracles and people's cures, nothing happened to him. He went everywhere. Finally, he was going to the Himalayas to look about the 400-old Babaji and all that. Couldn't find anybody and all that. Saw on the street, some monk. And he went to that monk, have you seen such Babaji? He said, why do you want? Everybody wants to look about a guru or somebody who can be 400 years, maybe with a very long jata, or maybe with peculiarity we think of spiritual people. So he was looking out for some of them. And this monk said, why? What's wrong with you? So he told him that he's in the last stage of cancer. Doctor has said he's going to die in 1 month. And there is no more cure. And so he's just come here. And that monk was a simple monk. He just told him, so you're going to die. Who's not going to die? So you're going to die. In this condition, why are you going around here? Just accept and go back home. Just accept that even if you're going to die, accept. This one word, accept. And that sadhu did not do any miracle or any such thing. He came to his home that, okay, accept the disease. And if it can be cured, it can be cured. If it cannot be cured, it cannot be cured. He went into remission. Last stages, doctors have all given up. No more cure. Went into remission. And he's still alive. I met him 20 years ago, doing a lot of work for the community. So I sat with him. I asked him. I said, because I wanted to see if there was any body-mind link. Of course, we both didn't have enough time. And naturally, if you want a person to talk, you don't push it. But I had no time, so I said, what was the emotion that you had before cancer? So he said he was depressed. So I said, was the depression before cancer or after cancer? He was after cancer. So I said, I want to know what was the emotion before cancer. He just said, nothing, I was fine, everything was fine, So I said, there was no time to, hit around the bush and analyze. So I just asked what was your emotion before cancer? Did you have anything like anger or anything? And there was an immediate no. From his immediate no, I understood that there was a cause of anger. So I said, then what were you going through just before you found out that you had cancer? A little period before that. And he said, I was very irritated. So I said, how irritated? He said, I said, with whom first? He said, with the whole world. I said, how irritated? I wanted to burn down the whole world. Now you see, it is not anger. It is denial of anger and suppressed anger, which is blowing up in the body so fiercely. And I even asked him that, because I wanted to see why a particular type of cancer. I asked him, I said, did you have any religion? And you know that men generally have problems with their fathers or father-in-laws. Right? So I said, did you have, it's a personal question, but I was really keen to, in my enthusiasm, so I just asked him, did you have any issues at that time with the family, particularly with the father? And there was an immediate denial, no. Especially for youngsters, please. Very often we have issues with our parents, and afterwards we can't do anything about it. Either we fight or we flight. Not realizing that how it conditions us. Then you can play the blame game that the father is wrong, mother is wrong, etc. But what we do to ourselves is very important. Therefore, the eternal values of acceptance, forgiveness is so important that overnight it can change the condition of your mind and your body. And see that one word, accept. That's why the Bhagavad Gita statement, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. As misused or complicated people get into it, the simple thing is, do your best and accept. You will not be stressed, you will not be frustrated, etc. Therefore, Kuru sad buddhim manasivi trishna yallabase nij karmopatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Even with wealth, earn whatever you can earn. And why should you earn less? Only few people can earn more. If there is greed, there will be. There's Trishna, there will be Ushna also. Right? You'll be heated up also. But live by your means, never live by the jewels. Neither be proud about your wealth and never ever feel ashamed for having less wealth than someone else. For who is the richest of the richest is one who can give rather than one who is a beggar. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, he is the richest of the richest who can give, and the poorer of the poorest who is greedy. And if that is the condition where you feel so much abundance that you can share with others, whether it's your wealth is not only money, whether it's your knowledge, whether it's your talent, whether it is your goodness, whether it's just your smile. How people are so poor with their smiles these days. That was barter. So he smiled only that much. She didn't smile. Why should I smile? Makes you look good. But people will not do that. The moment you feel abundant, abundance will come to you. The moment you are a beggar, even if you have a lot of wealth, you will always, when I say beggar, not that you don't ask. But what I'm saying is that if you're greedy, you will always feel poor. And a poor person, nobody helps. Eventually will lose money. Or even have money, like somebody just a few days ago was announcing something and he said, and particularly about Indians, he was saying, he was an Indian. He said, we Indians live poor and die rich to leave others to enjoy our wealth. And one secret of wealth, with one example, I will conclude. There used to be a man, very wealthy man, but also was an astrologer. And I'm not encouraging astrology, nor discouraging astrology. Okay? But he was a good astrologer. And when he divided, a good person divides his wealth for society and better give to society. Because if you can't give while you're living and you put in your will, then you want your children to do what you could not do. Right? Most people, I will will it and that will and go. No? One man told me recently so well, he was dying. He said, all I have is from Gurudev. But I will not torture my children by leaving so much wealth and giving it to them after I die so that they give their wealth. If I can't give that wealth now, I expect my children to give that wealth even if I will it. See that attitude towards wealth. This man had many children and he divided his wealth, what he had to give to society, what he had to give to his children. But his younger son, he said, my son, I have seen in your charts, you have got only one cow. I tell you, people don't understand astrology very well. There was one person who was told, and everybody likes to hear that. That's when you give the Pandit most dakshina. That, your son is going to grow up to have car in front of him, behind him, and everywhere around him. He'll have cars and cars and cars. And she's waiting for her son to become such a rich man. He became a traffic policeman. So it's how you interpret astrology, okay? He said, in those days wealth was cows or cattle. So he said, in your destiny there's only one cow. So I'm not cheating you of my will, but I will give you only one cow because you will be able to possess only one cow. I can see from your astrological chart. So he gave him one cow, and when he died, first the young man accepted it. But afterwards, seeing that his brothers, sisters had so much wealth and he had only one cow, one day he felt very agitated and said, what will I do with one cow? Even if you have to have a dairy to be profitable, there has to be minimum certain cows. What will I do with one cow? I can't even feed my family, and in fact, for him, it was a headache for him to look after that cow. So he saw one holy man passing from there. He donated one cow. His father had told him that in past life you have not done anything. So this life you have got only one cow. You have to live with that one cow. So anyway, he just said, give it away. So he gave it to one holy man who was passing from there. Next day he gets up in the morning to brush his teeth. He finds one cow loitering around. He wonders whose cow it is. There's no owner to that cow. The cow stays in his garden. He said, I didn't keep my cow, I'll keep someone else's cow. Somebody was there. He said, you take this cow away from here. Next day another man comes to him, says, your father had loaned me a cow. Your father had loaned me a cow, and that cow I could not give back when your father was such a lovely man. I thought I should give back to one of his sons. I thought you are the one who doesn't have much. I came and gave it. I want to give it to you. Suddenly he realized, and most people think that God writes your destiny. So he said, so you wrote only one cow in my destiny. Now I'm going to make you work. So if you think that destiny is unfair on you, make God work. And what he announced was that each day of my life, I am going to donate one cow. He had that much confidence that if my destiny there is one cow, that cow is going to come to me. And with that one cow, can you imagine how much he has invested for his future? 365 over 50 years. Meanwhile, till he gets those cows maybe in the next life, everybody thought he's such a rich philanthropist. He was called to every banquet. He was called to every place. He was called by every temple because he'll be donating one cow. If you understood this secret, understand what is in your destiny cannot be taken away from you. It will come back to you. But what you do with what you have is building your richness, not only in this life, but in lifetimes to come. But wealth, which is earned by wrong means, which is spent on wrong things, then artham anartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukha lesha satyam putra dhana jana bhajam biti sarvatraisha vihita riti. Shankaracharya clearly says that if we do not take Lakshmi as a loan given to us, and like Ravan, if you try to keep it only for yourself, separated from the values of life, then, as Ishavasya Upanishad points out also, and as is pointed out in Bhajagovinda, that wealth is so calamitous that there is fear even from one's own children and spouse. And larger your insurance, keep security guards. See? So this is how balance is. So one thing, always feel abundant. Abundance will come to you, and you know the secret of being rich and wealthy also. Second is, don't destroy your health for wealth, for you'll have to spend all your wealth to regain health, and wealth cannot even buy you health. Towards wealth as well as health, change your mental attitude. To change your lifestyle, be mindful of what you eat, be mindful of your thoughts, so that you don't allow such thoughts to pass through your mind that becomes your belief patterns. Stop blaming the world. Be satisfied with what you have. Then only you have that abundance to produce more. Very few people can even be wealthy, produce wealth, because not everybody can. And you can share it with the larger family that you have. Not just my family. Because that family, if you even give them over wealth without them earning it themselves, they'll wait for you to die or even kill you. See that? I hope you are watching your soap operas on television. Some of them are realistic stories. Some of them. Not the acting though. So, in this one session, I've tried to encapsulate. And simple thing is, be forgiving in life, and you don't even have to forgive if you are accepting in life. Accepting doesn't mean that you accept some cruelty, etc. That is not what I mean by acceptance. If there is a mental attitude of acceptance, then there is no mental agitation, and you know exactly how to act in that situation, not according to your fancies and imaginations, but according to what's required at the moment. And that's what is being mindful. That's what's being meditative. That's being aware. And that is the awareness that when we develop in our action, then only we can recognize ourselves to be that pure, infinite awareness, which is free from the body, free from the mind, free from the intellect, and therefore free from all the happenings in the world and for dependence on anything and anyone for our happiness. That truly is called as moksha or liberation. So with this, I will conclude this session. I just got one or two announcements, and they will show you a video, and we'll then complete on this thing. Chinmaya Mission, Gurudev was a great visionary. Not only he started at that time, knowing that the families were dwindling to become lonely families, and the culture, values, the inner strength, emotional strength, children will start lacking, and therefore started the larger family of the Chinmaya Bal Vihar, Yuva Kendra, and for adults, study groups, where you will think, reflect, and come to your own convictions. I'm very, very happy that in the New York area, these activities by our board members, our sevaks, are increasing, growing, and you all can participate in it. More inquiries you can have it from our sevaks at the bookstall, etc. But Chinmaya Mission is a huge family. I call it as a family because it's not here to bind you. Where families come together for their spiritual, emotional, as well as their social growth. Puja Gurudev 25 years ago had planned a university. He had in fact gone around the world. A university that will bring the ancient and the modern together. We have great Sanskrit literature of the past. Many of those books are being used by universities of America, England, and Germany particularly. But wiping out the language from India, Sanskrit language, and brainwashing Indians, oh, there's a saffronization, because thank God, only the spiritual people have kept the language alive. They're just preparing for the video that we want to show you. Start preparing for that. It's not coming on me, it's fine. Bring it out, it's fine. It's not coming on me, why are you frightened? It is Columbia University that I found out about such books of knowledge. Today we can say, oh, India also had the science, India had that science. But are we able to bring that methodology of thinking which gave the world the invention of zero and infinity? Which is there in our books of knowledge, but we do not even know how to interpret it. A language and a culture that gave you a way of thinking which is not linear, which is not out of the box. Yeah? But it is multidimensional, like the language itself. Today, as you hear, in this most prosperous country which is planning innovativeness, and because of one or two people being innovative, we have created such large companies. And again, we have created that education system where you make everybody linear thinkers, and it is the dropouts generally who made it big. Because they didn't think as they were brainwashed. Right? That's what they have said. With the Buffett, Mr. Buffett, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. Steve Jobs was not a dropout necessarily, but really didn't do much in college. Today they want people to have a different method of thinking. Otherwise, how much are we going to go on? Expenses going on, inflation going on. That methodology of thinking where we can bring the successful ancient knowledge to meet with our present knowledge systems. Last year we were given the university status, though 25 years we've been working under the Chinmaya International Foundation. And the university has already started. This is an old video we are showing you just to give you a glimpse. But we are not going to be taking every science. It's not an engineering college. It's not those. It's a way where they can go into any field of work, profession, but with a completely new method of mindset. Even now it is not possible because even many faculties are only of that. But to create an education system where that way of innovative thinking as well as intuitive, spontaneous thinking, besides the deductive, logical thinking, which we all have today, and that's how our education system is. Something that Gurudev started even bringing values into the education system and pointing out, and today CRS today is the top academic school in the country, in spite of day schools, and everybody wonders how, without extra tutorial classes, without constantly telling the children, don't play, just study, study, study. Yeah. It's because when we have that mindset, even academics become very easy. So, to create an education system over a period of time, a great visionary program for generations. All we can say is, we can be pioneers about it. I saw a clip recently about a video, one, arrogant grandson is telling his grandfather, gee, the Swami was saying you didn't even have television at that time. You didn't have mobile phones. You didn't have this, that. You didn't have WhatsApp. You didn't have this. Gee, you guys were really primitive. What were you doing? He said, son, we invented it all for you. What are you doing? Right? So, just to give you an idea about this university, it's a huge project which will of course also require great expenditure, because all students are at the moment given free education under scholarship, merit scholarship. So it's a wonderful project. I do not know how the government also thinks that any one institution without any government assistance financially can run it, but we have only trust in God, and it will come, and of course will inspire all of you also to come forward, whether as academic guidance, whether in whichever way, those who are in the academic field, PhDs, doctorates, please send your this. Even if we create certain forums, we can find out what expertise we have even amongst ourselves that we can bring into the various fields of knowledge. At the same time, such huge projects require a lot of, whether you want to donate a chair under family name or institution name or a building, all these possibilities are there. I'm not come here to ask you anything, but to let you know that such a visionary program is there by our larger family, the Chinmaya Mission. And those of you who feel that it's a wonderful work, come forward. Our Priyaji is here. Where is she? Yes. Priyaji is here. And if you have any questions or anything that you want to share or know from her, she will be there. This year also, being Gurudev's 25th Mahasamadhi year, Guruji and I had thought together and declared that being Aradhana year, this will be the year where what was dear to Gurudev, Bhagavad Gita was dear, for which he gave his entire life. Please go get a Gita. Buy it or take it free. You've not kept the Gita there, I thought.
No, we have.
They have, okay. There must be few copies. Beg, borrow, or take it free. Yeah. Donate whatever you want. If you want to donate, don't bother with Gita. But take a Gita and read the Gita. Second, what was dear to him is Guru Taponji Maharaj. Know which Guru Parampara we come from. Read at least one book of Taponji Maharaj. And we are having the first temple that Gurudev consecrated was the very form that he meditated upon from childhood, and that is the form of Lord Shiva. They led him to reach the Himavat Vibhuti, Sri Somakashi Isha, Sri Taponji Maharaj and Swami Shivananji Maharaj, and became the greatest teacher of Advaita Vedanta. That temple also is celebrating its 50th year. Its brochures are there for those of you who are interested for its Kumbha Abhishek to come or to send. Tomorrow onwards in Queens, I will be speaking on Mahamrityunjay Mantra, which also incidentally is not a mantra about death, but it is for longevity, for good health, and eventually how it leads us to find freedom in this life itself. So we'll be going to the depth of that mantra, and as we hinted that how negative thinking can lead you to disease, etc., how through these mantras you can lift yourself, and how these mantras can even bring a person at the brink of death back to life. One day everybody has to die, nobody can stop that. But these so-called untimely deaths or diseases which are almost like death, these are the topics. So I have come all the way from where? Not Orlando. You can drive to Queens. I waited on your aircraft for 10 hours. You can wait in traffic for another 20 minutes. What does it matter? So you're most welcome to come there. And I'm also very happy to announce that you see there that in Long Island, finally, there was a big dream that we will do it in New York area so that many children, youth, adults will benefit. Finally, the land which was acquired some time ago, we've now got few permissions, and within the year, hopefully we can start the construction of this wonderful center, which will be the place of learning for the whole family, our Chinmaya Center in this place in Long Island.
Raghupati